The Valiant Dawn hummed through the void between star systems, its engines a steady pulse that Chief Engineer Raylan Cross had long ago learned to hear even in his sleep. He stood in the engineering bay, surrounded by the organized chaos of repair work, panels pulled away from bulkheads, diagnostic tools scattered across workbenches, and the ever-present smell of ozone and heated metal. What he didn't immediately notice was the small shadow that darted between the equipment racks. Kira was a Valerian cub, barely 3 cycles old by her species' reckoning. Her people were apex predators from a high-gravity world, built for hunting with retractable claws, infrared vision, and reflexes that put most species to shame. Even as a juvenile, she stood nearly 4 feet tall, covered in silvery gray fur with distinctive black stripes along her spine. Her golden eyes tracked movement with unnerving precision. She was also supposed to be in the ship's youth education center, not prowling the restricted engineering sections. Raylan caught the movement from the corner of his eye, just a flicker of silver disappearing behind the primary coolant exchanger. He sighed, setting down his plasma welder with deliberate care. This wasn't the first time Kira had visited his workspace. The cub had been aboard for 2 months now, along with her parents who served in the ship's security detail, and she'd developed a peculiar fascination with the human engineer. Or more specifically, with his tools. Diagnostic scanner, Raylan muttered to himself, loud enough to be heard. I know I left it right here on the bench. Strange how things just wander off. Silence. Then the softest scraping of claws on deck plating. Raylan turned his back to the coolant exchanger, making a show of searching his other workbenches. He'd learned something important about Valerians during his years in deep space, particularly the young ones. They were proud creatures, honor-bound even in childhood. To directly confront Kira about her thefts would shame her, potentially damage the fragile trust she was building. Her parents had explained that she'd been struggling with the transition to shipboard life, acting out in small ways. But Valerians also had an instinct for teaching through observation. They learned by watching, mimicking, understanding the why behind actions. So Raylan had developed a different approach. Well, he said conversationally to the empty air, guess I'll use the backup scanner. Good thing humans always keep spares. We're not the strongest or the fastest, but we plan ahead. Adaptation, that's our thing. He pulled out another scanner from a drawer, making sure the motion was visible from where he suspected Kira was hiding. Then he went back to work, running diagnostics on the starboard thruster assembly. An hour passed. Raylan worked steadily, occasionally narrating his process aloud. Not lecturing, just thinking out loud in a way he knew Kira could hear. Interesting. The magnetic containment field is fluctuating. Could be a power distribution issue. Or maybe the emitter coils are misaligned. Let's check the power flow first. Always start with the simplest explanation. Another flicker of movement. Closer this time. When Raylan's shift finally ended, he stretched, cracked his back, and made his way toward his quarters. His small cabin was nothing fancy. A bunk, a desk with a personal terminal, and a locker for personal effects. Spartan, efficient, human. He went through his evening routine. Shower, a quick meal from the replicator, reviewing the next day's maintenance schedule. He deliberately didn't check for his missing tools, though he knew exactly which ones had vanished over the past weeks. A torque wrench, a set of precision calibrators, the diagnostic scanner from today, even a welding stylus that Kira had somehow managed to carry off despite it being nearly as long as her arm. As he prepared for sleep, Raylan noticed something on his desk. The diagnostic scanner sat there, carefully placed with the torque wrench beside it. His lips quirked into a small smile. He picked up the scanner, examined it briefly, then set it back down without comment. He climbed into his bunk, killed the lights, and settled in for sleep. Through barely cracked eyelids, he watched his door. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then the softest whisper of the door's emergency override, a trick Kira had learned from watching her security officer parents. The panel slid open just wide enough for a small form to slip through. Kira crept across his cabin with movements that would have been completely silent to most species. But Raylan had spent years working in environments where the difference between a normal vibration and a critical malfunction was measured in fractions of a decibel. He heard her, though he kept his breathing deep and steady. The cub approached his desk. There was a soft clink of metal, more tools being returned. The precision calibrators, he guessed. Maybe the welding stylus. But then something unexpected happened. Kira didn't immediately leave. Instead, Raylan heard a different sound, soft, almost tentative. It took him a moment to recognize it. She was purring, the Valerian equivalent of contentment, though this sound carried notes of something else. Uncertainty, perhaps. Hope. When Raylan had first arrived on the Valiant Dawn, the Valerian crew members had been wary. Humans were new to the galactic community, their reputation preceding them in strange ways. They weren't the strongest warriors or the most brilliant scientists. They didn't have the Valerians' predatory instincts or the Solarians' computational minds. But they had something else. A peculiar gift for understanding, for adapting, for finding unexpected solutions to problems, and perhaps most importantly, a capacity for patience that bordered on the mystical by galactic standards. The soft sounds continued for another moment, then stopped. Kira's footsteps retreated, the door whispered shut, and Raylan was alone again. In the morning, he found all his tools returned, arranged in a neat line on his desk. And beside them something new, a small carving clearly made by young claws of a human and a Valerian cub working side by side. Raylan picked it up, turning it over in his hands. The craftsmanship was crude but earnest. He set it carefully on his shelf, then gathered his tools and headed to the engineering bay. When he arrived, he found Kira waiting outside, trying to look casual despite the nervous twitch of her tail. "Morning," Raylan said simply, as if her presence was completely expected. "Big maintenance day today. Could use an extra pair of hands if you're interested. Might teach you some things about fusion cores." Kira's eyes widened. "Really? You'd let me help?" "Why not? You've been watching long enough. Time to learn the real work." He paused, then added with a slight smile, "Besides, I need someone to hand me tools, someone who knows where they all are." For a moment, Kira's ears flattened in embarrassment, but then she saw Raylan's expression. No judgment, no anger, just quiet understanding. Her purr started up again, stronger this time, and she fell into step beside him. As they entered the engineering bay together, Raylan reflected on what made humans unique in the galactic community. It wasn't strength or speed or even intelligence, though they had enough of each. It was this, the ability to see beyond the surface, to understand that sometimes the smallest gestures carried the greatest weight, and sometimes pretending not to see was the kindest thing you could do.